Kimberly, it says that we're live up there in that corner.
We are. Good afternoon, and you are rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. And I want to start out by apologizing because our featured guest for today will not be able to come on the show. However, um, the sensory free services, mass services, are every first Sunday at this, I want to say St. John or St. Paul Church in Cedar Springs. I believe
It's
it's where.
St. John Paul II Church in Cedar Springs.
Yeah, that part.
That
I
part.
think I was a little irritated, so I probably didn't catch all the information. So I do apologize for that.
We are, but we're live
And
as I
we are.
check this over here. So yes,
So I did
those
remember some of it,
excellent.
not all of it in its entirety. But we have so many great things that are going on right now. Last week was Invest in Ability. Oh my gosh. Probably the best yet ever that I've ever seen. And so many great folks that were there, then seeing all the wonderful pictures. And at the same time, the inaugural Veterans Claim happened in Muskegon. So that is awesome because Disability Advocates of Kent County does have a veteran peer support program. I am one. Well, I wasn't exactly in the peer support program. I was in an independent living through the VA. However, Disability Advocates of Kent County does have an independent living program. And as a United States Navy veteran, I went through the VA's independent living program, and which includes being partnered with Disability Advocates of Kent County. And so it's just really nice how things come back around full circle. And I realized when I saw on Thursday, okay, I was wheeling around, in my Bentley, and I said, wow, it has been 6 years since I graduated, if you will, from independent living. 6. Can you count them, friends and neighbors? 6 years.
Yeah, that time flies thing, unfortunately, is too real.
It
because
is.
time flies.
But so many things have happened in the 6 years. I had a group of young people come down to do a PSA, if you will. It's going to be a present to disability advocates, just talking about what it meant to me. The theme for this year was "Come and Get Your Keys," and I kind of gave a little play on words that I'm old enough to know that when you bought a home here in Michigan, you would get a key that opened up your front and your back door, but you would also get a skeleton key that gave you access to all of the doors inside of the house. And so I kind of did a little parallel saying that, you guys are coming here, you were advertising to come and get your keys, but what you gave to me was a skeleton key, because a skeleton key gives you access to every single door that you need to have opened. And I just.
Well, and I would just follow up on that is also, and it's really about what's on the inside. Because I mean, the inside for the person, because you already have it, you just like, which room did you put it in? I use that, a woman that developed our employment training classes, Denise Borges, and she, like yourself, Dr. Kimberly, she came first as a consumer to Disability Advocates, and we didn't give her hope. We didn't give her power. We helped her find where she had put it,
I love
right?
that.
So again, we don't give you power. We don't give you hope. You have that. And unfortunately, we help people find that. And then it's the barriers that make us put our hope aside. that if the world's not accessible, if the world's people aren't including you, they're not welcoming you, then you just get disheartened, and you're like, I'll just put this in a box over here, and then again you forget where you put it. And so trying to knock down those barriers, so then it's easier for folks to say, yeah, I'll be part of that, and I feel welcomed. So good stuff we try to be about here at Disability Advocates.
And it's greatly appreciated. And I can tell you there are a lot of people who are probably most grateful for all the wonderful things that you were able to provide. As I look at what have I done over the last 6 years, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we, Invest in Ability was last week, and that's when we first met, was that Invest in Ability when you spoke. And Miss Cross, and we, I know I've told the story, but I'll quick tell it again, that, we used to have 3 people give like a different story, how different departments helped an individual. So folks that were in attendance would get a better sense of what we do as disability advocates. And then that year we said, well, can we only have one person? And somebody suggested, well, this person named Kimberly Kennedy, pre-doctor, said, has worked with a lot of the departments, that worked with workforce development through the veterans program, and then with our home accessibility team, making sure your house was accessible. And so we're like, we got this person. And I'm like, all right. All right. Again, I trust my team. They're going to be a good person. And here we are 6 years later. I think 2 more Invest in Abilities for you, a lot of laugh fests. And believe it or not, in a couple of weeks, it's going to be 2.5 years we've been doing this.
It is.
How did that happen?
Look, as my grandkids say to me, I don't know. I don't know.
It's just the 2.5 years just plow forward, folks. And yeah, good things continue to happen. We continue to add supporters and allies out there in this thing, trying to create a barrier-free community for everybody. So, yeah.
I think so. So if you're just tuning in, we want to apologize. Our guest was not able to come on at the last minute. And that's fine, because Dave and I always have so many things that we can talk about, so many activities.
A man of many words.
Just like, woohoo, you get 2 talkers in the room. Oh my Jesus. But yeah, so we'll get another segment 8. And we want to say thank you so much. Oh my gosh, the response has just been overwhelming as we have talked about this journey about where's your faith and where's church in the midst of your disability and the intersectionality of it. We've got so many more pieces that are on deck, for that, but we also make room in case we need to do something, pretty quickly. We want to say hello. That is Auntie Lena, who was just on all the way from Detroit, Michigan. And definitely, I have to say that her father was the pastor of True Light Baptist Church. Oh my goodness. Many people remember Reverend Patterson. He was a trailblazer in so many different ways. And I would have to say that was probably the first church that became accessible. They have an elevator. If they weren't the first ones, it may have been, okay, so these are the churches that are accessible. First Community AME, they do have an elevator. Messiah Missionary Baptist Church has an elevator and it's accessible. New Hope Missionary Baptist Church. And of course, all of these that I'm listing are African American because Auntie Lena, her dad, African American Baptist preacher here. in the city of Grand Rapids. And so, yeah, True Light Baptist Church. And I believe like they were between them and First Community were probably the leaders in making their church accessible. Putting in the elevators, and there's always been, the wheelchair section, if you will, at church. Always been a wheelchair section. So there's always.
Do you know why they did that?
What do you mean?
Just like, I mean, was it because a member had a disability, or what's up, Ronnie?
Hey, Ronnie.
Tell everybody you said hello. Yeah, I mean, like, why? Yeah, why did they do it? Because like a lot of churches in town, especially the older ones, just remain inaccessible, or they have kind of the non-technical term would be a weird way to get in.
Yeah. Oh, so, I know who else has one. Macedonia Baptist Church has one. They have a ramp that's on the that they put on the outside of the building. Yeah, there's a ramp. Yeah, but I don't suggest. Don't get on it if it's raining and not in the middle of winter. And because it actually goes from the sidewalk all the way up to the top of the first floor of the building. That's a
long ramp.
And the pitch on it, don't look down. Don't look down. Don't look down. It's like being on the roller coaster. You know that.
Yes. When the clicks stop, then you get worried.
You're just like, oh my gosh. Okay. I remember growing up at True Light Baptist Church, and they had, the church is huge. So there's 3 rows of pews, there's 2 aisles, and there's no place for you to be in the back. And most people were not ambulatory, so they weren't, doing a transfer. So they just brought them up to the front of the church, and then they were right in the front on the side next to over by the organist. And it kind of got lovingly called the wheelchair section. Messiah's church is set up the same way, that they have the pews. I guess a couple of things they probably could do is they would probably have to cut a pew in half, maybe, so that if you wanted to make on each end, be able to put a wheelchair in. So take an end off. That's how we did it at New Life when I was there. They brought up the short pews, and then had me. They put that on the front row.
Yeah, I'm just looking here at pictures of the church. I've been there before. So, in fact...
Oh, thank you. She said, thank you. Thank you for your dad. He realized that presently senior and disabled members were not able to enjoy the activities on the lower level. So, honestly, I think if I remember correctly, and you can probably help me with this, Auntie Lena, I believe that True Light was the first church to have the elevator put in so that you could get down to the lower level. And I know certainly if they were not first, it definitely has to be first AME, because they have Allen Manor that was right next door. So maybe they were first because they had Allen Manor. And in order for the members who went over there to their retirement home, if they wanted to come to service, they did. They put it. So I think they were first to put in the elevator. She said, "Okay, you were, and then First Community. So then it was True Light, and then First Community, because First Community built Allen Manor right next door to their church." So, yay. See, we got a little church history today.
And definitely church history and some church leadership, folks saying, we want to include everybody. We got to invest in our infrastructure to make it happen. And that's awesome.
And how are some of the ways that Disability Advocates of Kent County has helped to do that over the years?
It was funny, just a few months ago, I might have been knocking on doors for some reason, and I ran across a retired pastor, and almost 30 years ago, I went out, to their community and gave them recommendations. It's people, I don't understand, again, in the old days, we liked steps. And so there was never a true ground floor. It's like to get into this church was up 4 or 5 steps. Then when you got to this main level, it was like half a flight up to some like a fellowship hall and half a flight down to some classrooms. Maybe it was no steps into the sanctuary, but just giving those suggestions on here's where you should be investing. Again, it's getting in and getting out, and of course a bathroom. Those are kind of like the key pieces, and helping churches find the best way to do that. It's how to say it. And this, don't take me the wrong way on this, Dr. Kimberly, and I know you won't. But churches rely on the free will offerings of their members and guests and visitors. And so, are you leaving people outside? And so if you're leaving paying members outside, do they go find another faith community? I'm saying, again, it's not about the bottom line, but it's about the bottom line, right?
You know me.
Hey,
that was funny.
Hey, well, but it's funny.
It came out. You're like, so I'm about to go pay my way someplace else because I can't get in, and I can't even get in. Where's the milkman right now? Because he's pastoring the church. So where's the milkman?
But again, it's just if you're talking about a business, a straight up business, we do talk about it's and a lot of businesses, which is sad. A lot of businesses are like, well, we have enough customers. If we say if you don't have a ramp at your front door, people with disabilities can't eat here, and they're like, that's all right. We got enough customers. It's not like we're going to go out of business. Well, but we've talked to local colleges and universities that as alumni age, you want them to come back, have a good time on campus, and you might suggest, and your development officer, i.e. your fundraiser, is not only asking for donations this year, big and small, they're also asking for what are called planned gifts, or will you leave me in your will? And so if somebody has a great experience or they feel welcomed, I'm not saying you don't do it because of the money, but if you do it and the dollars follow, right? And if somebody, again, it's all about feeling welcomed and included, and we do it because it's the right thing. As people of faith, you'd think people would do it because it's the right thing to do, that we should include everybody. So,
well, you definitely put something on my mind.
Uh-oh.
When you look at it from what dollars do make sense. And I know in the African American church.
Wait, time out. What dollars make sense and what sense makes dollars?
See, I'm telling you. But
so back to your train of thought that I've derailed.
it's a running joke in the African American church. All of us remember the building fund. So our question always is, if the roof is still leaking, the door's about to fall off and we need new pews, where's the money for the building fund going? And we don't have the intention of building a new edifice, but it's like, who came up with this building fund and why wasn't it used? I mean, at that time, we didn't think about, accessibility, but there were things that we really did, need. Nobody knew sign language. My cousin was deaf or hard of hearing and mute. So there wasn't anybody who said, "Oh, okay, I'll go and I'll learn sign language." I saw a sign outside of the Special Olympians that says, "Hey, you want to learn ASL?" Hopefully, the classes are full. But I laughed. So I do apologize, I guess, if you're offended, but that was funny to me, because I think that many people will agree that there was this big wave of prosperity churches, and everybody was trying to build their mega churches. We have how many pastors that were being investigated because they had their own private planes and islands and all that other kind of stuff. And now 10 years later, I'm looking like, since I've been in a wheelchair, I wonder, do they have is their airplane accessible? Can I wheel onto their airplane and go fly with them if they're going on a ministry trip? I just want to know, can I go too? Is your facility accessible? I look at a lot of the pulpits and I'm like, wait a minute, they can't invite me to come preach. How am I get in there? How am I get up on the pulpit? I don't see a ramp. I don't see that. And I look at how, the styles of the interior edifices have changed, but none of them changed what happens if my pastor needs a wheelchair. We talked about this, I think, off screen in one of our conversations. We were talking about Pastor Rose. As a matter of fact, today they are going to honor him. They're going to have a memorial for him. He was the pastor of Messiah Missionary Baptist Church. Oh my gosh, more than 30 years. And he had ALS. So he was preaching up until almost the very, very end. And when he finally needed a wheelchair, I thought that was interesting. They didn't change the pulpit. They just brought him down. And then he would sit in the center aisle at the front of the church and preach. Let's see, what does Ronnie have? Ronnie says accessible bathrooms should be made mandatory at churches, wheelchairs, walkers, etc. Oh my gosh, that's a subject all unto itself. But I just remember looking and saying, wow, they have an elevator in, and I didn't think that his ALS would progress to where he would need to be in a wheelchair, but it did. And in fact, I think I want to say there's some similar to my Bentley. Had a very nice chair, but I don't know. I guess in my mind, I thought that they would have taken out part of the steps on the one side and just put a board in and go boom, put the carpet back on top, or they could have carpet with the building fund. I'm just with the building fund. They could have used fund. So even with that, and then they have a section that's to the side up front. That's the wheelchair section. Because I came one Sunday and they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, so we got a wheelchair section and it's over here." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But I'm sorry. I guess I can get unstuck off of. I'm gonna take my money someplace else. I'm gonna pay to play someplace else. And I think, if we look at it seriously, what does happen with those tithes and those offerings, and to make sure that we as your parishioners have access to the service. What does that really
Right.
look like?
Right. Well, and it's the yeah. I mean, it in any aspect of life. How are we making sure that we are including everybody,
Mm-hmm.
or that at least we're inviting? It's on us to invite, and then if someone listens to our invitation, do we really welcome them? And then once we welcome them, do they really feel that they belong? We've on my wall back there, it's got disinvited, diswelcomed, and disbelong. It's we don't put dis in front of those words, but those are the more substantive, foundational words in that relationship. How are we inviting folks, or people with disabilities are like, well, I guess I was disinvited to this church because there's no ramp. Or as Ronnie pointed out, it's like, you know, what if I need to use the restroom and there's no accessible restroom? Oh, the bathrooms are all downstairs. It's like, well, it doesn't work because you don't have an elevator. And so it's just, um, so yeah, you just don't feel welcome, so diswelcomed. So,
Is there, only because I looked, how many years ago now? It's been almost 10. Um, how could I help my church? What is it that we needed to do at that time? And Joni and Friends, Joni, many of you know her, wow, from like the 70s and the 80s. I think that's where, I'm not saying she's not popular now, but that was really her highlight and her moment, where I think she was the first person who was a wheelchair user that got so much notoriety. Yeah, I'll put it that way, because she's a quadriplegic.
mm-hmm.
She created cards, books, and paintings, and people were just, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. And it wasn't until years later that now she has a church, and she helps. Well, first of all, she's the lead in teaching church staff and members how to be welcoming and be inclusive for persons with disabilities. She's created a whole curriculum, and you and your staff can take those courses, or you can on your own get certification to say, hey, I can work with people in your church or in your home church. And I don't know how long it's been since they added monies where you could get a grant for like bathrooms. If you need to make change to your bathrooms, you need assistance with an
Hmm.
elevator and things like that. Um, so, as it relates to disability advocates of Kent County, I know that you guys will come alongside, homeowners or renters with ramps and do some accessibility. Have you been able to do things like that for churches?
I mean, again, we would provide the recommendations. We would, try to give people those talking points so they could raise those dollars within their faith community or do fundraisers. How do you make it a priority? Back to your point of the building fund. I mean, if your roof's leaking, you got to take care of that. But once your roof stops leaking, you know, what do your restrooms look like? What does your access look like? And knowing that it's going to serve folks for a long, long time, and that whole life cycle. And then for people to kind of get it, that you don't just have to have one church that's the accessible church, you know, um, and and so it's, yeah, this has been my faith community. I want to keep going here. If you acquire a disability, so and then we do just our DEIA. We add the A for accessibility to those trainings, that working with faith communities on that fuller understanding. Because it's, when I asked you why do you think that church was the first, um, it's like, why do we do anything? Do we do it because one of our longtime members becomes disabled? Our
Oh yeah,
pastor.
I think that was the answer.
Yep.
Not being able to enjoy the activities
Yep.
on the lower level.
Exactly. And to be full active members. Just because you use a wheelchair doesn't mean you cannot be a full active member and want to. And again, you want to have that community. That's one reason why we go to church, is for that community. We could dive into theological conversations. Is salvation a community activity, an individual activity, or both?
It's both.
And so how can you experience the communal aspects of it if a big chunk of the community you can't participate in? You can hang out in church, but you can't hang out after church if that's where you do fellowship or other fun events, because that also builds community. So as you cough, that's because one of my theories in life, and I borrowed this from a friend long ago, is I call it the accidental quality of life, which means there is no such thing as quality time. All there is quantity time. And in quantity time, quality accidentally appears. Because sometimes you go to church and you're just like, I was at church, right? I know that's never happened to you, Dr. Kimberly. But sometimes for me, sometimes it's like, all right, what's for dinner? Who's on the football game when I get home? It's Sunday. But then sometimes you go and you might be feeling that, and something happens again. And I say accidental, not from a crash perspective or random, but just something pops up. And it is just that deep rooted down, almost the sky opens and you hear a voice. It's just like, and you can't plan for that. You have to be there every day. And so that quality, with families, the joke was, you got to plan for some quality time. No, you got to have quantity time, and quality will emerge. And so for faith communities, if you don't put in the quantity, if you don't allow people to be there as much as they want to, and as long as they want to, it reduces that possibility of like having those beautiful faith moments that truly inspire us in a good way, not from a just, inspire action, instigate action. That
I call it the pat on the head inspiration.
Yeah, it's
Good job.
real.
Oh wow.
Yep. And that too, exactly. So anyways, there's just a lot of cool opportunities to be together, and sometimes you have to watch a bad movie together. Back in the youth group days, we used to have, what do we call it? Back when I was a youth minister, it was, what did we call it? It had some catchy, pizza. Was it dinner and a movie, pizza and a movie, or the movie club? It was a movie club. back in the old days when you had to go to Blockbuster and spend 2 hours deciding which movie you were going to watch. And then we'd try to have a conversation afterwards, what was good or bad. And, youth group, most times it was like pulling teeth and the kids just wanted to be somewhere else. And every once in a while, you'd have this just really heavy, deep, and real conversation. You just, and it's like, oh, this movie is going to be so awesome. The kids are going to be so inspired. And they're all like, whatever. Right. And then you have the movie. You're like, this is a silly movie. And they're all inspired to talk and get deep. And it's like, the movement of the spirit, we cannot control.
No, we definitely cannot. And I think we've missed those days of connectivity. And I think we did spend, I like that. That it's about the quantity of time. And it does flourish into quality time. I have a cousin that is always that's her love language. Her love language. And I said, mine is spending time with someone. You know, I got it.
Yeah, I mean, spending time with each other and telling stories and learning about people's past and their future. I mean, again, that is so powerful. And I was just sitting here thinking, it's like most social media, even though we're broadcasting live on 15,000 social media platforms as we speak. Maybe I exaggerate, but social media in sometimes is like a distillation of all these quality events and it's like, that's not real. It's like here's my real, and again, quality will pop up. Dr. Kimberly, hopefully your cough isn't what I'm finally getting over, which is this wacky head cold.
And it has been, and the weather changing, my allergies acting up. I need to take my Benadryl because I don't want to be asleep. But everybody is always, I'm busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I said, no, nobody's ever really that busy. We just use it as an excuse not to engage. Excuse me.
Yeah, busyness is, it can be an excuse, and busyness is a symptom of our, I would almost call it a symptom of our lack of belonging and welcoming. That, you got to take the time, folks. What are we busy doing?
Nothing. No. Because that's usually how, when people want something from me, the first thing they'll say, I know you're really, really busy. So, no, if you need something and you need me, just tell me what it is. And I'll tell you, this is when I can do it. This is what time. I'm going to make that time. And to me, that speaks more volumes than if I were to go out and buy you something. That's not, I mean, I could buy you whatever you want, but that's not my love language. My love language is, because to me, the greatest commodity that any one of us has is time, because we all have it. It's just how we choose to use it. And those who become successful, build businesses, build relationships, move things forward, it's because of the way they choose to spend their time. What I love about Disability Advocates of Kent County, it's because you spend time. I've become who I am in 6 short years, after acquiring a disability, because number one, you guys took out the time to welcome me and to invite me and to include me. So, I mean, you can do that. You can invite, you can include, but I have to make the effort to say, I want you to, and then give
Mm.
you that time and that space in order for it to happen. So I appreciate the time and the space that was created to be able to do, well, because look at us now. We took the time to create, this space.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for 2.5 years because we've been committed to that time, to that space, and to say, you know what, we're going to show up unapologetically and give you all that it is that we have to give you. So once a week, that you're going to get 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes out of either one or both of us. And guess what? That time does become, it's full of a lot of quality because of the things that we talk about and things that are expressed. People are able to have a voice.
And we hope it's thought provoking, and it's not just we're not looking for a chorus of people to scream amen. We're looking for folks to get in dialogue with us, and have these conversations, because like you, Dr. Kimberly, I'm seminary trained, and some of my best homilies, or we call sermons homilies in the Catholic world, some of the best sermons were on the surface the worst. I mean, the priest was terrible. And so I would spend my time writing a better sermon. And so like I was inspired by how bad that sermon was. It's like, that's just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you should say it, and feeling, and not because it was me, but again, it inspired me to at least between my ears do intellectual battle with this person. It's like, you're just wrong. That's not my God. It's like you're condemning a whole group of people and doing terrible things, and you're justifying all kinds of stuff in the name of God. That's just wrong. And then how to preach it in a different way. So anyways, we're not here for you to get a spoon and lap it all up. We're here to hopefully inspire, instigate some conspiracy to breathe with us in this journey called life. And for those of us who, in this series of episodes, those who choose to have a faith life and believing in a higher power, however you define that higher power, and using that, we hope, as instigation for good works. So yeah, folks, we keep having this time together, and don't quote us. Be about yourself.
We want to say thank you so much for tuning in. How quickly 45 minutes can go by. And for right now, we're just going to kind of put a pin in the intersectionality of disability, faith, the church. There's a few more things that we kind of need to get done before the end of the year, because there's so much that we could really talk about as it relates, to this subject. And there's so many other lenses in which this could be viewed. And there are a plethora of people behind the scenes that have come up with some phenomenal ideas and ways that this could go. We've even talked about, an ecumenical service. What does that look like? And doing it in different places. I think today brought up some more questions, of what that will look like. based off of people's personal beliefs or what their faith is and what that looks like. You know, it's so layered. There's just so many layers. And so we're not here to answer every question, dot every I and cross every T, but we are definitely here to be conversation starters and make you say, hmm, I need to think about that. Because sometimes we don't even know why we do what we do, why we say what we say, but maybe there's something that may be said or done, or a guest may say something here on the show that might be thought provoking for you. And it
Mhm.
may inspire or spark a change that would be for the better for yourself, for others, and those that you encounter every single day. We have discussed so many things, from politics. Wow. We've talked about the church. We've talked about our communities. We've talked about our homes. We've talked about the census. We've talked at great length about the pandemic. We've talked about mental health, physical health, emotional health. You name it, if we could think of it. We've even touched on a few shows about dating. We've even talked about, suicide ideation. We want to be the conversation starter, regardless of whatever our personal beliefs are. We are providing a space that is safe, where we are understanding. We are your ally. We are non judgmental here. And we're here to listen to you, whatever it is that you need to talk about and you may want others to know. I have to say, we even allow a young man to tell his truth and come out of the closet. So we have truly covered a plethora of topics, and we certainly don't do it to offend anyone. And if you are, we definitely apologize. It is not our intent. However, people need a voice.
Mhm.
And this is a safe place for people to be heard, regardless of if their opinion, their thought, their lifestyle, whether it agrees with what we believe or not. We're going to give them the grace and the space to be able to do that. And I would hope that in your sphere of influence, you would allow the same thing. I would have to believe, based off of the Bibles that I've read, and I've read them in different languages, and I've read them in different interpretations. When you get a couple of doctoral degrees, you do an awful lot of reading. And the God that I read about in those books was kind, he was loving, he was sovereign, and there were times where he got angry, but he still gave space and grace. And on Rolling on the Road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave, we will always give space and grace. Be an ally, be understanding, non judgmental, and have a listening ear. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on next week.